Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn at pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey there, welcome to the show. It's the middle of May. It's the 15th to be exact, 2019, on a beautiful spring day in Pittsburgh, PA. Speaking of that, I have my computer up, and I just an ad just popped up for Kennywood. For those of you who aren't Pittsburghers, Kennywood is one of the oldest, I think it's one of the oldest amusement parks in the country. It's very old, and it's a wonderful, wonderful park. Not my idea of a good time, but I mean, it's wondrous. Just not for me. Anyway, I happened to see on social media today that there was a big to-do when Kennywood opened this year, which must have been very recently, and people went over to one of, I guess, the favorite food places there called the Potato Patch. And please don't tell me, but I guess this is a place that gives you French fries smothered in a cheese sauce. Yeah, that's what I got from the... Anyway, all hell broke loose. Immediately, people, upon their first bite, could tell someone messed with the cheese sauce recipe. It was not the Potato Patch cheese sauce that people had been ingesting against their doctor's orders for decades. And so all hell apparently broke loose. Even a local television station, I guess, did a investigative report what happened to the Potato Patch cheese sauce. And the folks at Kennywood, backtracked so fast, everyone's head was left spinning. They acknowledged that, in fact, all those very well-trained Pittsburgh palates had been correct. They had messed with the Potato Patch cheese sauce. And so Kennywood has quickly capitulated to this outrage here in Pittsburgh and has returned to the original recipe that's probably been around for 5,000 years. I don't know. And my advice to all of you is don't eat it. I can't imagine. What is it with French fries in this town? God. Anyway, and I love fries. But there's no need to put cheese on them anyway. Anyway, never mind. I just thought that was funny. And I thought there was something wonderful about it when so much is going wrong in the world and we're freaking out left and right about, did you hear what happened here? Did you see what they did? Did you blah, 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 blah? And this is something that caused people to go kaplooey, apparently, here, a television station sending investigative reporters out. And the great news is almost immediate resolution of this outrage. So I just wanted to tell you that. I would have forgotten it, but the Kennywood thing popped up. And speaking of the stuff that we spend time arguing about or worrying about on a program such as this, I do have another thing I want to share with you. Unfortunately, we can't share the video, and odds are a lot of you have seen this because when I saw it on Twitter, it had already been shared something like 200,000 times. It's, I believe they call that viral, going viral. It is about a 30-second video of someone most of us know, although he was after my time. My time, it was Captain Kangaroo. That's all I had. I was even before Mr. Rogers. But this guy was a staple of a lot of kids' television viewing, I don't know when, the 80s, 90s? Who knows? Bill Nye the Science Guy. And this was a nerdy-looking science teacher who did science stuff, I guess, and told the kids what he was doing. And he was wonderfully entertaining and educational. And Bill Nye, the Science Guy, has decided that it was important for him to put out another little lesson. This one, just 30 seconds, and this is all the rage, almost as much of a rage globally as the potato patch cheese sauce was here in Pittsburgh. And because you can't see it, I have to set it up a little bit. He's standing behind his lab table, and he has a globe of the world here. And over here, he has a fire extinguisher, and I don't know what else, a bucket of water, and other stuff. By the way, we'll put this up on Facebook, so if you want to see the video, there it'll be. And he starts the way, I guess he started almost all his experiments. He says, safety glasses on, and he puts his safety glasses on, and then he lights the globe on fire. And so all of a sudden, this beautiful globe is like there's flames shooting out of it all over the place. And that's the visual, with, again, the fire extinguisher to his left, the now burning globe to his right. Here is the latest thing that Bill Nye the Science Guy has put out there, hoping to educate all of us.
Safety glasses on. By the end of this century, if emissions keep rising, the average temperature on Earth could go up another 4 to 8 degrees. What I'm saying is the planet's on fucking fire. There are a lot of things we could do to put it out. Are any of them free? No, of course not. Nothing's free, you idiots. Grow the fuck up. You're not children anymore. I didn't mind explaining photosynthesis to you when you were 12, but you're adults now, and this is an actual crisis. Got it? Safety glasses off, motherfuckers.
I have to tell you, for people who grew up with Bill Nye the Science Guy, that is hysterical. And so people who get on me for use of the F word, understand if at this time in history you're not using the F word, you're not paying attention. Even Bill Nye the Science Guy is saying, fuck. So, there you go. Just wanted to share that with you. And what made me think of that was another little piece of alarming news about our fiery globe that popped up yesterday. Not sure where Washington Post saw this. Apparently, over the last weekend, two little towns in the uppermost regions of Russia, the northwestern regions, that essentially are on the entrance to the Arctic Ocean, saw the most extraordinary temperatures ever. Understand, this is Siberia in early May. It's a hop, skip, and a jump from the Arctic. And the temperature was, in one place, 87 degrees. So, Bill Nye showing us a globe on fire was, to say the least, apt. In the other location, it was 84 degrees. Understand that this is like 30, 40 degrees hotter than normal temperatures. And also, not only were the temperatures 30 to 40 degrees above average, this was true in Finland and all along that upper tier. And all of this a direct result of the climate change happening and the changes in jet stream because of increased carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. Carbon dioxide, for those still not paying attention, is the leading cause of these kinds of weather anomalies we're all noting now. And the carbon dioxide measurements have been going. On Saturday, the carbon dioxide measurement, we're going to leave Siberia for a second and go to the more lovely clime of Hawaii. And while they were having almost 90-degree temperatures in northern Siberia, Hawaii was seeing the highest measurement of carbon dioxide levels. And here's what they figure. In at least 800,000 years, and possibly over 3 million years. In other words, never. Carbon dioxide levels have risen like that since the Industrial Revolution, when humanity made this great leap forward and started spewing in their great leap all of this crap into the air. So carbon dioxide, that's a greenhouse gas. It's called that because, like a greenhouse, it traps heat. It traps heat. It puts like a ceiling over us, and heat that used to escape does not. So 18 of the 19 warmest years on record for the Earth have happened since the year 2000. 18. And since it's 2019, that means something is happening here, and what it is perfectly clear to change a song that's in my head, right? So, do I have a caller? Oh, I do. Hang on, caller, I'll be right with you. I just want to get to... Roger wants us to put the word out that the change in the cheese recipe at Potato Patch was done by executive order of Donald Trump, hoping that that may be enough for all the Potato Patch eating Trump voters at Kennywood to maybe finally see the error of their ways. Grasping at straws. Roger. Okay. Caller, go ahead, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The Bill Nye skit.
Yeah.
That was on last week tonight.
Oh, it was on. Okay.
Yeah, there's actually two more that he does.
Oh.
That was the last one, but he cuts them all three of them.
So that's on.
But I've heard him.
John Oliver's show, for those of you who don't know, an HBO show on Sunday nights.
Yeah. He does a whole thing on the Green New Deal, and then interspersed with Bill Nye. But yeah, I've heard Bill Nye curse before.
I have never. I have never.
Yeah, because I used to watch the show with a friend of mine's son all the time when he was a little boy.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I always called him the Mr. Rogers of science. because he was like a nice guy.
Right, exactly.
But then I've heard him in debates, you know what I mean, and in interviews, and he's not, you know, he's not like Mr. Rogers was a nice guy in real life, and Bill Nye is a guy in real life.
So with Mr. Rogers, it was what you saw was what you got. He was no different in person. Bill Nye, however, must say motherfucker a lot when he's not wearing his white lab coat.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when it comes to like climate change. He gets really upset, and when he's arguing with people, he'll call you an idiot and all that kind of stuff in a second.
Oh, I had never seen that. It's just wonderful. It's funnier. It's funnier for me because I didn't know that. So. Yeah, it is if you saw Mr. Rogers, you know, saying, "Listen, you MFers," you know.
I don't know, Mr. At this point, you know, when you just talk, I didn't know that thing about Siberia. Holy smokes!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
Because it's one of those things where, you know, I'm out. It's prom time, so I'm out doing caricatures and, you know, drawing kids and talking to them. So, what are you going to do? What are you going to be? And they all have these hopes and dreams, and I'm sitting there like, I sure hope that you can do. And I'm serious about it. I'm like, I sure hope, you know. But I do tell them, I said, you know, if you want change in this world, you're going to have to do it, because my generation doesn't give a crap about nothing but crap. They got to have their stuff, and they're not ready to sacrifice for you or anybody else not to have their stuff.
And how do those soon-to-be graduates respond to that?
The ones that I usually talk to, ones I think that are pretty cool. You can tell by the way they're dressed, and they always say, "You're like the first old guy that ever said anything like that admits it." I'm like, "Yeah," I said, "You know, there's a few of us out there and stuff, but you know, there's not enough." I said, if you want change, you guys have to do it. You know, and I always bring up the kids from down there in Florida who, you know, were going out, you know, about guns and all that kind of good stuff. And I said,
right, because they have been amazing.
Yeah.
And that is another good news story with the NRA continuing to be back on its heels. Never would have thought. And I credit those Parkland kids greatly.
And there were those kids in Great Britain who are protesting, you know, climate change and all that kind of good stuff. And you know, and I said, yeah, if that grows, you know, and they go to the ballot boxes and things like that, you know, we might see some kind of change. But it's like Bill Nye said, is it going to be free? No, it's going to cost.
It's going to cost
you know,
I
actually remember back in the 90s talking to you about climate change, and I said, we're doomed. and you said, well, how can you live your life like that? And I said, I could be wrong. But it was in the 90s. I said, we're doomed. Because even back then I could see nobody was willing. We were talking about something, but it had to do with water, you know.
Yeah.
Like, and
no, we're never,
said,
humanity, people are never interested until something is at such a crisis level. And in some crises, that's too late. Mm-hmm. And global warming is one of those things.
Could you imagine if, but it's almost like that. It's almost like the climate or brown people at the border. People are starting to panic about it because they're seeing it. Yeah. You know, they're experiencing it. The floods, the droughts, the fires.
Yeah, but are they willing to do anything about it? They'll want to build. They'll fall for something like, well, if we just build a dome over us or build a wall, we'll be okay. I mean, they're still unserious. They might be getting nervous and fearful and wondering what's happening, but are they willing to have their lives impacted in the way they'd have to be to really start reversing this? I don't think
my answer to that question is no.
Right. That's my, you know what? Mine too.
One more, like, quick prom story. I go to this prom, me and my friend, we get there early. So the kids aren't there yet. This is the after prom. And nobody's there but the parents. And I was just in the car telling my friend, I said, I'm turning into like a grumpy old man. He goes, yes, you are. I said, I'm trying not to be that way. And then we get to this place, and these parents are acting like kids. I mean, a couple of them were drunk. They're all, dancing around, and I don't know, just acting silly. I saw teenage girls acting and teenage boy acting parents, in their 30s and 40s, maybe even 50s. And I said, this is exactly why I'm a grumpy old man. I said, because these people get on my nerves.
Well,
and
yeah.
they don't, yeah.
I'm going to go back to that, my favorite Chris Potter quote. We are a very unserious people living in very serious times. And that is the truth.
Yeah, it was the other saying, the Nile isn't just a river in Egypt.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
No, I completely, I agree with you. The only thing that'll save us grumpy old farts is we do still have a sense of humor, and, lose that at your peril.
And then occasionally, and I run into, kids, my friend's daughter just graduated from Pitt with a degree in nuclear astrophysics. And I went to her graduation, but they had a little thing before the graduation. And her sister, another physicist, and her boyfriend, another physicist, were at this thing. And I'm talking to these three and the son, the artist. And I'm like, oh, there is hope. If there's more of these kids, there's hope for their future, but then you run into the other ones, Well, I'm not going to say it. It's not the kids. It really is the parents. I guess it's it's like the baby boomers and Gen X. The ones right after the boomers. It's for God's sakes, grow up.
I know, they can't. You stop and think of all the children's holidays that boomers absconded with.
Oh yeah.
That's part of it. That's part of it too. The refusal to. Well, go ahead. Because
every Halloween I say it. I remember when I was a kid in Halloween, we just went out and got candy.
Yeah.
There was no adults dressing up in costumes and all this nonsense. So you just stood there and said, some kids said trick or treat, and you dropped a piece of candy in their bag. That's what adults do. So let it go. It's over. You're no longer a kid. You don't. It's over. Be the adult.
And let the kids be kids. Stop intruding on their territory. On the one hand, we intrude on their territory, taking away their fun, their games, and acquiring them ourselves, and making them, of course, things where you have to buy more crap. But we also take away their childhood by this, hovering and not allowing them any independence and overscheduling them and stressing them out about, you got to learn how to be able to compete. So right off the bat, you have to. And God help them. But yeah.
I'm sorry. You got to be because I remember back in the 90s, I said, I'm out of this rat race. Somebody said, why? I said, well, who's in that race? They go, well, I said, rats. I said, I'm out.
Yeah.
I just downsized and again laid back. I said, I'm out. This is nuts.
I agree with you.
Stressed up. Yeah.
I do. Yeah. Do you want to be a rat? No. Do you want to go into that craziness? No. But that's where the money is. That's where the power is. That's where the status is.
Mm-hmm. And this is something I've been telling. I tell people, look, if you really learn to love yourself, none of that nonsense matters.
Exactly. Hey, no, we are so on the same page here. Exactly. Stop trying to keep up with the rats next door. Stop trying to. Who cares? It's not important. Damn.
People. Because I'm like a thrift shop, and I'm damn good at it. But I'll put it up on Facebook that I only paid such and such a thing for such and such a thing. People say, well, if you didn't tell anybody, nobody would know. And I'm like, I want them to know. Yes, I want them to know that you can still, I don't know, be comfortable, look okay, and all this, and you don't have to, say that I bought this at Macy's or whatever expensive stores there are out there. That's it. You don't have to do it.
Right.
So
you're
stop living vicariously through your stuff, or your status. If you truly learn to love yourself, you won't need any of this nonsense.
Well,
okay.
Thank you for the sermon. I appreciated it.
Okay. Okay now. Have a good day.
You too. Amen.
Thank you. All right. Bye.
Yeah. He's saying it. Oh, man. Yeah, Bree reminds us that in Pennsylvania, I think this is frankly a little odd myself, but next week, would that be? Not quite. May 23rd. The governor of Pennsylvania has declared May 23rd, which is the reason he got to May 23rd. It's the 143rd day of the year. And 143 was a number that was very important to Fred, Mr. Rogers, for a few reasons. And if you ever saw the documentary, the wondrous documentary. By the way, I just saw that Taylor Swift so loved the Mr. Rogers documentary. She sobbed through the whole, I sobbed pretty much through the whole thing too. Sobbed through the whole thing. When it was finished, sobbing, she called her mother. And when her mother heard her sobbing daughter on there, she says, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" She was that done in by it. He had a hell of an impact. Anyway, the 143rd day of the year, and Mr. Rogers loved that number, 143. If he played the lottery, he would play that. Can you play three numbers in the lottery? I never played the lottery. Okay, 143. And because 1, he would say is I. 4 is the number of letters in love. And 3, the number of letters in you. So 143 was his shorthand for I love you. Also, strangely, 143 is what he weighed. And what he weighed pretty much every day of his life. And he cared about maintaining that slim. Jeez. I mean, I outweighed him the whole time I knew him. Why he always swam every day, trying to keep that slim figure of his. Anyway, the governor has proclaimed it 143 Day in Pennsylvania, and the idea being that we're all supposed to do something really nice for people. One day a year, that's all. The other days, the over 300, you can go on being a jerk, but they're calling it a kindness generator. And I know that Joanne Rogers, his wife, I can't say widow. I just can't, because I can't still take in that he's been gone so long. Joanne just charmingly explained the 143 stuff on The Tonight Show when the documentary was out. And I'm looking at a video of that here. So, yeah. Imagine what the world would be if we would all channel Fred every day of the year. I always hate to bother Joanne. Maybe I'll see if she wants to come by on that, but she'll be too busy on that day. Maybe, she's no spring chicken, and she's all over the place, by virtue of having wed this extraordinary man. Speaking of extraordinary men, I want to highly recommend to you a documentary that I started watching last night. It's on HBO, and it is about a man that I have just loved most of my life, and he too is gone. But the documentary is called What's My Name? Muhammad Ali. And I think it's 2 parts. The first part, which I watched last night, is as good a way to spend, I don't know what it was, 90 minutes of your time as I can imagine. To be reminded of what an extraordinary human being this was. How courageous he was. How ahead of his time he was. He was doing all the stuff that we think we invented, 20, 30 years after. Branding. He was 19 years old, and he could see, I can make myself into this. He didn't have the word brand, but how he just innately understood and created that character. He actually took a lot of that from wrestling, the wrestling world, specifically Gorgeous George. And he said, I get that. Make myself into this figure that people will pay to come and see. And he said, I don't know if it's true, he didn't care whether they booed him or cheered him. They were coming to see him. And I think we forget how vilified he was. And as I watched it, I realized that I think in many ways his journey from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali, and then his courageous stand against the Vietnam War, which lost him his title, which threatened him with 5 years jail. All of those things. He was in his early 20s. He was brilliant, intuitively brilliant. And as he liked to point out, he was so beautiful. Physically, you could just look at him forever. He was just wondrously gorgeous. And then he was a poet. And we might make fun of some of the little, no, but that they aren't. Some of his poetry is powerful as heck. After his mentor, Malcolm X, and Elijah Muhammad was a bit too, Malcolm X was assassinated. He wrote the most extraordinary poem. I am just blown away by him. And that poem, like it presages hip-hop. Hip-hop didn't exist then, but if you see him reading this poem, it's hip-hop. There's a beat. There are words that mean something, that have import. Take the time to watch this. And on top of it, it is a product of I'm pretty sure, Antoine Fuqua, who is the director of it. By the way, LeBron James is one of the executive producers of it. He put the money in to make it. And Antoine Fuqua, the director, is, I believe, Pittsburgher. Hill District or Homewood, pretty sure. And it's just remarkable. The other thing, of course, is the Muslim stuff. And the reason the title is What's My Name is after he legally changed his name to Muhammad Ali because he converted to Islam. Newspapers, sports reporters, other boxers refused to call him by his name. They kept calling him Cassius Clay. Cassius Clay is who he is. Cassius Clay. And I forget which fight it was where someone refused to call him by his name. And it enraged him. I mean, and who can blame him? The disrespect. That is my name. And he dispatched with that guy very quickly. And throughout the fight, you can see his mouth moving. And what he's saying is, "What's my name? What's my name? What's my name?" Now, there were times when he didn't know when to shut up. And his braggadocio and his youthful braggadocio went too far and turned a lot of people off. And I remember it turned me off a bit. But I think he was part of why I started to see a world beyond my own. I was, when he was just coming in and coming on and people were appalled, the Cassius Clay to the Muhammad Ali, I took note of him. A high school kid in Green Bay, Wisconsin, who didn't know a black person. And I found myself listening to him and finding him compelling as heck. And then when he and I, somewhat at the same time, turned our attention to the Vietnam War, he, because he was drafted, I just thought he was heroic. And I do think he is like a colossus among men. I do. I will think so till the day I die. And please watch this thing. HBO, What's My Name? Muhammad Ali. And there is this adorable clip with him and Dr. King where he so cracks up Martin Luther King. I don't know that I've ever seen Dr. King like that. You know, he too, such an extraordinarily imposing figure. And he was delighting in Ali's smarts. Just delighting. And you see a young Lou Alcindor with him, who was, of course, to follow his path. to become Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, which I'm sure caused him much of the same trouble. And the other thing I forgot looking at this is when he was in his corner in a ring, before the bout started, he had his back turned to the center of the ring, and he's praying. He has his hands, his gloved hands up, his head down. People are hooting and hollering and booing, and he's praying. And then the bell rings, and he turns around and starts the fight. I haven't seen anything that I have loved that much in a long time. So I just wanted to give it my 5, 6, 7, 10-star review. Watch that. Extraordinary. Okay. And now on to stuff that is less wondrous. Oh, I also want to note Senator Elizabeth Warren's refusal to take Fox News up on its invitation to give her an hour-long town hall on their network where she could reach their viewers. This is an offer that has already been accepted by some of the Democratic contenders, including Bernie Sanders. And I think, did one other person do it? And I believe Pete Buttigieg is appearing in his Fox, he agreed, this Sunday night. And she made clear that she refused to help them attract an audience. And I think here's what she said, and this was done in what's called a tweet thread. She says that she refused to be part of a hate-for-profit, that's what she calls Fox News, hate-for-profit racket. And she goes on to say, hate-for-profit works only if there's profit. So Fox News balances a mix of bigotry, racism, and outright lies with enough legit journalism to make the claim to advertisers that it's a reputable news outlet. It's all about dragging in the ad money, big ad money. And she goes on to say, to host a Democratic town hall, as it is going to be doing with a lot of the candidates, gives the Fox News sales team a way to tell potential sponsors it's safe. So look, these Democrats are up here. It's safe to buy ads on Fox. And Warren went on to say, I will not ask millions of Democratic voters to tune into an outlet that profits from racism and hate. Now, you can make of that what you want, because some people say, well, you'll never reach those people if you don't show up. She thinks you do not collaborate with one of the biggest reasons we are in the predicament we are. You do not collaborate with this hate-spewing, democracy-killing so-called news network. Do not let them exploit you to make them money. And when I read her tweets and her reasons, I thought, yes, Good for you. Good for you. Truly, I do believe that. Good for you. What else I have here? These other things are... Oh, and this is somewhat interesting, and I just wanted to throw it your way in case you hadn't seen it, that San Francisco has, by an overwhelming vote of their city council, I think they call it a board of supervisors, has outlawed facial recognition software by local agencies, by any governmental agency. And some are already using it, and they've said, if you want to continue to use it, you got to show us how you're using it, and we've got to determine if that makes any sense at all. The reason being that facial recognition software has already been shown to have some difficulty in identifying dark-skinned people. If you're white, the odds of the identification being right are pretty high, really very high. Not 100%, nowhere near it, but pretty high. If you're black or brown, that facial recognition software gets all confused because I guess when a bunch of white guys, and also it has trouble with women. So what does that tell you? This is software designed by who? White men. They're the ones who program it. And strangely, then, this all-knowing, all-seeing artificial intelligence facial recognition stuff takes on the biases of the white men who created it. And so an awful lot of black people and an awful lot of women, and God help you if you're a black woman, a lot of those folks, when this artificial intelligence facial recognition software looks at them, it gets real dumb real fast and thinks, well, I don't know, they all look alike. So because police departments, the FBI, Homeland Security, all of that are now already using this stuff, and this is an area where black people are already getting screwed over, right, by police. And this will only add to their being screwed over by police. So until someone comes up with something better, San Francisco has said, we are not going to give police authorities more power to screw up when it comes to black people. And we're also not going to buy in to this increasing surveillance state that is happening in every city in the country. I mean, tons of police departments already routinely use facial recognition software. The Massachusetts State Senate has also is considering a bill that would put a moratorium on facial recognition software in the entire state of Massachusetts until some kind of regulations are enacted or the recognition software gets a whole lot better. And lest you think that this is just a bunch of lefties going nuts, no, people actually in the industry, in the tech industry, including Microsoft, have urged. Microsoft has been part of the effort to get government to regulate this technology. They don't want it banned, but they agree it needs to be regulated. This freaked me out, speaking of the FBI. Boy, I am segueing today. It seems like everything just adds to another thing. In the Mueller report, right, we learned that there was a county in Florida. The Mueller report said there was this county in Florida that had, in fact, had its voting systems hacked by the Russians in the 2016 election, and we don't know what county that is. There are 67 counties in Florida, and none of them have owned up to having been hacked. And you may recall at the time it was a hotly contested Senate race in Florida in 2016 with the incumbent Democrat, Senator Bill Nelson, trying to keep his seat from the Republican former governor, Rick Scott, who unfortunately won that race. And during the race, Senator Nelson, the Democrat, had said that there had been an intrusion into one of the county's systems. And the governor, Scott, said it was a lie. It was unfounded, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, turns out, of course, that Rick Scott, now the senator from Florida, was the one lying. But the new news is that now the governor of Florida, a guy named Ron DeSantis, another Republican, said yesterday that he has been told by the FBI that it wasn't just one county in Florida that was hacked during the 2016 election. He says the FBI met with him and told him the county that the Mueller report knew about, but also told him of a second county. And then the governor says the FBI told him, we're telling you this, but you cannot share this information. And they made him sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, so that he could not tell the citizens of his own two counties that maybe their votes weren't counted or their voter registration rolls were messed with by the Russians. He's complaining about it. So he went public with the fact, I have been told there's two counties in my state. I know who they are, but I can't tell the people. And he ain't happy about that, nor would I be. One of the election officials in Florida says this is not acceptable to keep secret attacks on the most public of our political processes, our elections, a secret from the people. Just saying. We have a caller. Caller, go ahead.
Hey, Lynn, it's Mike in D.C.
Hi, Mike.
And this is the reason why Trump is going to get another 4 years.
Oh, God.
It is totally the reason. It was fixed for Hillary, and it's going to be fixed for Buttigieg or Harris or anybody else. It's fixed. And the reason the FBI doesn't want him to let it out is because the FBI doesn't want Russia to know we're on to them, so we can fix it. Because all Russia will do is work around whatever patch we have. So when Hillary said on Rachel Maddow, our only hope is for China to also fix it, she ain't lying.
Wait, she said what? That China should fix our election too?
She said, well, when Bill Barr said that Trump's saying in front of the world that Russia should come in and look for Hillary's emails, if that isn't collusion, then the next Democratic nominee could say, hey, China, help us find Trump's taxes, and that's not collusion either.
That would be true then, I guess. But Lindsey Graham would disagree. Jesus.
Of course, because it's fixed. It is fixed. It's so fixed. I'm not knocking on any more doors.
No.
I'll vote, but I don't trust it at all, which is also Russian playbook, is to get us not to trust our electoral system.
Well, the article that I'm reading this from says that they believe that the Russians had hackers in a position to alter registration data, though they didn't think they had the ability to mess with the tabulation of the ballots, that they could just mess with registration stuff, which might have suppressed the vote, right? If they could, like, wipe out Democratic voters. But you're saying you really think they're able, well, why not? We haven't done anything to prevent them.
Right. I work for the federal government, or used to. I'm a contractor. Was a contractor for them. And when I'm looking for jobs now, the jobs that hire from Amazon and Microsoft pay at least $20,000 or $30,000 more than government jobs that people work in the government. Not contractors, but like govies. So the really good people, the people who could really figure this out, figure out how Russia is fixing those DeBolt machines that everyone was forced to buy because Republican owned the company.
Yeah.
They're not going to work for the government. They're not in the FBI. The good ones are outside because the government doesn't pay much.
And the good ones are working for the Russian intelligence services, too.
Well, since their economy is so small, anything the government gives those...
Yeah, I mean, that would be a great job over there, right, I'm sure.
Right.
Well, yeah, but you can't. Jeez, I don't know. You don't know which fire to put out first. You just don't know.
Particularly because people are saying there's not a fire. There's a show on HBO called Chernobyl. Yes. And for the first few days during Chernobyl, when the thing exploded, it wasn't just a meltdown. It exploded. There were pieces of graphite all over the place. For the first few days, all the people in power kept saying, there's no problem, there's no problem, there's no problem, there's no problem. And a woman miles away, like 100 miles away, noticed that their radiation levels were rising and figured it out.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. There's no problem. Russia's not in colluding. Russia hasn't fixed the elections. There's no problem.
Okay.
So we can't put out a fire if half the people don't agree there's a fire.
Well, that's true. Now, I want to ask you, because that's something that does look very interesting. Is that good? Is it well done? Should I watch Chernobyl after I finish Muhammad Ali?
Yes, it's very good.
Okay.
I mean, it's only two episodes in, but it really, we're talking about Russians like they're, they're Machiavellian, but it really paints the Russians to be plain idiots.
Yeah, bumblers. Yeah.
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 And I don't know if they've got their act together or they're better at attack than they are at sabotage. But in any case, we cannot put out this fire if more than half of the people in the country think there is no fire.
Right. All right. Well, you got the last word. I thank you. Thank you, Mike. Okay.
See you.
Bye. Bye. Well, that does it for this hour. Wow. Anyway, I'm going out. Their sun's out. The sun is out. That is unbelievable. I'm going to go get some vitamin D. Okay? Exposure. Okay? You have a good one, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.